think our pro staff, they did a really good job. Really good prep in terms of being able to have our evaluations lined up with our coaches, so everyone was on the same page. Also want to make sure Matt Feinstein gets some credit. You know, he manages our cap, helps us negotiate. He did a fantastic job this year and continues to get better and better every year. Jalen Johnson, probably the first topic. Really proud to get that done. You know, we talked to the combine. I thought we were close, and we got over that deadline by a couple of days, but we were able to close that thing up. And Jalen's done an unbelievable job. He's grown since we've been together, and we expect him to continue to grow, bring others along, and continue to lead our group, especially that defensive side of the ball. Free agency went really well. We wanted to continue to add impact players and create depth as well. We stayed opportunistic with some things that popped up that we, didn't expect, like Kevin Byard, and he's going to be a really good addition on the back end, communication, leadership. He still has speed, still has ball skills. I really think he's going to affect the defensive group at a high level. With the trades, Keenan Allen popped up, which was a really cool opportunity, for where we're headed, which is going to be with a young quarterback. I thought it was an absolute perfect fit. I don't think there's a better receiver in the league that can be better for a young quarterback in terms of understanding the NFL game, timing, space, reading defenses. So I think that's a great addition. It balances the field with DJ on the other side, Cole and Everett at tight end, Swift at running back. We have a lot of really cool things that can get going and allow us to be dynamic and really special. Justin, probably one of the harder things I had to do. I know, I always kind of touch on the empathy part. Like having that conversation with my own son was hard. His jersey's up in his room, so it kind of puts that into perspective of how difficult those moves are. But really felt like that was best for our organization and best for Justin. I said that at the combine. I want to do right by him. We did that. We had a really good conversation. I actually went to Fluke's house, and we had that conversation together with him over the phone. And again, one of the harder things we had to do, but I thought it was necessary for us heading in the right direction. Draft, we're going to leave here, get right back to the draft process. Actually going to fly to LSU straight from here and their pro day before heading back to Chicago. Just continue to put all the information together. Every day I feel like we get more and more clarity as we move forward. So we're excited about where we're going, and everything looks promising.
Ryan, the trade for Keenan, how nimble did you have to be, and how did that whole thing all come together during obviously a pretty busy period for you?
Yeah, so that's one of the things our staff does really well, just identify potential cap casualties based on what other teams are looking to do. So we didn't have total clarity on it, but when it happened, we were able to adjust and get into some conversations that we could capitalize on it. Again, my time in KC, I watched him, do some really cool things for a long period of time, and to watch the tape, it actually blew me away how high of a level he's still playing at his age.
Are you
Regarding
anticipating an extension for him at some point soon? I know he's 32, but that.
Yeah, I think down the road, I try to be intentional with the order that we do extensions. So we'll review that and kind of see what our order looks like. But for what he stands for, I would love to have him long term.
Regarding the Fields trade, why the Steelers, and were there other teams potentially that you could have moved them to?
Yeah, there are other teams. The Steelers were just an opportunity where it was almost like more of a, they have a starter with Russ, but there was more of an open competition, it felt like, from my perspective, where there are other opportunities where there were some, quarterbacks that were either veteran guys or young guys that had already been paid. So it would have been a tougher situation for him to get on the field.
How did the market shape up in the weeks leading up to that? I know that there are people who look at the return and go, oh, it's not a ton, but yeah, I imagine that. Did you expect it to be more kind of when the preseason or when the off season started?
Yeah, it was a little bit of surprise, but as you do research and you have conversations, you have to kind of adjust to the market. But I think just with how other teams are built, because if you look at the beginning, there's probably teams that are looking at the draft for guys to fill in. On the back end, the playoff teams probably have someone in place. So it really was a smaller pool, of teams. So.
Before the trade is finalized, was there like a decision day before that where you feel good about these rookie quarterbacks to move on from Justin?
Yeah, we had been putting that information together all along, just trying to measure how we wanted to go about doing it. I know there's a lot of talk about, having Justin there and drafting a quarterback as well. We had a lot of deep conversations, and I got some really good guys on my staff to really dig into how that would play out in terms of the locker room. How would that play out with a young guy that needs a lot of reps? How would that play out with just the command and leadership that you need in that position? And we felt like it was best to probably move on and allow a young quarterback to come in and work into that role.
How did he handle the news?
He was positive. His tone was good. I think what was important for Flus and I is to really express to him, although this is a really tough decision, like how much he means to the city of Chicago, our fan base, and us. I thought he was a class act in how he handled the ups and downs of the start of his career. But he sounded good. The tone was good.
When did the Steelers emerge as the best trade partner? Is that after the Pickett move, or is that in that time frame, I guess?
In that time frame, yeah.
Ryan, the number 9 pick is one that you guys obviously put a lot of work into as well. You obviously go through a lot of scenarios. What excites you about the number of different potential avenues that you may have there?
Yeah, I like the numbers. I've talked about this when I first got here, but we, have different tiers on our draft board. So I like the numbers in terms of the talented players that can get to 9. We're going to do some cool things when we get back, kind of break into teams, and one team's going to talk about what's the tackle position is the best to go after, the wide receiver is the best, the defensive end is the best, and use factual information to kind of spit that out. And we'll have a debate in terms of what's more impactful for a football team, short term and long term. So I'm looking forward to that exercise.
Because of the currency you have, is there a consideration to move it back because of also the stack of players there as well?
For sure, yeah. And that'll just kind of play out, and we'll see what the numbers look like, and that'll kind of dictate how far we can move back if we decide to do that.
Ryan, you made a lot of moves so far on offensive line. Do you view those as more depth and flexibility, or do you feel like you may have your current 5 right now, or is that something that you're still looking at too?
Yeah, I like, with Bates coming in, I feel like we've created some depth there, and versatility is something that has really bothered me for a long time, just in terms of the lack of flexibility that we've had in the past. And it stresses you out, big time going week to week. So I feel like we have more versatility now and competition.
Ryan, over the
Cole
last
Kmet
week.
said that Bruce called him
Yeah.
about the Justin trade. How important was that for you guys to communicate with key leaders on the team?
Yeah.
And then what type of feedback did you guys get as a result of that communication?
Yeah, we try to do a really good job communicating with our players. We expect the same for them. Like if they're going through something and they have a problem with something, we want them to come to us and communicate that rather than keep it in. So we thought that transparency was good. Let them hear from us first. You could tell they really appreciated it, and it was almost like, hey, you don't need to do this, but we feel like we should. And I think that goes a long ways with our guys. There's a second part of your question.
Just, what was the feedback
Yeah.
that they had in terms of losing Justin, I guess, and moving on?
Yeah, I think DJ's quote there, it's, business is a business or something like that. I think they understand that there is a business part to it, and it's not something where just because you trade someone doesn't mean you don't like them or don't appreciate them. And they understood that we thought that was the best move for where we're at.
Why do you think it didn't work out?
There's a lot to unpack there. I think, if you go through the whole deal, like in the very beginning, I think that was a choppy start, rookie year. And then when I came in, we had some cleaning up to do, which then delayed another year of adding talent and supporting. And then just in terms of the game, I feel like he was making strides and improving. The problem is, and it's really, and that's what I try to explain, it wasn't Justin versus one of these rookies, it's really the timeline and how much runway that you have, because really to get a guy up off the ground, you need to support him with as much talent as possible. And then that flips, because then they take so much cap space, which is a good thing if you get to that point, but then they have to be the reason you start winning. So then it's harder to add the talent, around them. And you can look around the league, and it happens a lot. And really the teams that can sustain success through that period, I think, do a really special job.
Ryan, over the last week, what have you learned about Caleb Williams that you needed to know in this draft process?
Yeah, I will say when you talk to his teammates, they don't like him. They love him. His leadership, how he brings people together. He's intentional with his leadership. Same goes with the staff. I'm having a hard time finding a person that doesn't like him or even love him and thinks, you know, that he can reach the highest limits. So the feedback's been good.
Do you have the top 30 for him planned already?
Yeah.
Do you
Yep.
know when that's going to be?
It's gonna be that first week of April. That's when our first big wave comes in, and he'll be a part of that.
What, having spent so many days out in LA and a big contingent from the team there,
Yeah.
what do you hope to glean when he comes to Hallis?
Just another touch point. Continue to, and I've learned this over the years. When guys come in, you can really do some installations, take a break, and then have them reinstalled back to you, just in terms of recall. Build relationships with coaches. Make sure that there's compatibility there.
Since he didn't give medical at the combine, will that be the one chance you guys will have to get that information as well?
Yep.
How much are you maybe comparing and contrasting him still with maybe the other quarterbacks, McCarthy, May, Daniels, or is it now every information we could get?
No, we're going to continue the process. Like I said, we're going to go to LSU right from here. We'll continue to evaluate everybody. You know, I do think, as I said before, like we gain clarity as we move forward, which is a good thing. But we also want to make sure that we continue and finish the process with the rest of the class as well.
North Carolina, too?
Can't make that one, but our quarterback coach and some of my executives will be there.
Ryan, when you say he's intentional with his leadership, what's an example of things that you've heard or seen that tell you that?
Yeah, you know, we look for guys that can bring others around. So the cool thing, you know, there's pros and cons in this NIL setup, but the cool thing is you do have some resources to, you know, take your O-line out to dinner. You know, you see the Christmas gifts that the NFL guys do. So really bringing those guys together, spending time, creating that bond is really what you're looking for in that position, and he's done that.
What was he like at dinner a couple nights before his pro day with his teammates there?
Yeah, really mature. One of my guys kind of bumped me on it, which I think is rare these days for a 22-year-old. He never touched his phone. So really intentional with his conversations and, you know, talking about his interests and things that he likes to do. So really good touch point.
The draft is 1 month from today. Do you know when, or at least ideally, when you would have your decision made about who you're taking?
I don't right now. Hopefully it just hits me.
How different is it working with a player or getting to know a player in this NIL era, and then specifically with Caleb, somebody who does not have an agent?
Yeah, with the NIL deal, again, there's pros and cons. I'm starting to learn that I think for us, when we gather information, it's actually pretty helpful. It puts these guys in the spotlight, gives them more responsibility, it forces them to prioritize money, business, football, school. How do they handle that? What kind of structure do they put around them to make sure that they're making good decisions? They have people that can say, no, like, that's not going to fit in my timeline. So I think there's some positives there, and I'm picking that up.
And then him not having an agent, is that something that I guess you guys know now, so you can kind of prepare for that? Is that unique as well?
Yeah, unique situation. I understand it, though. So, you know, with the draft process, you know, it doesn't make it too difficult. There's some little things, communication and just understanding the landscape of that. That's probably one of the more negative things. But there's probably a lot of pros, too, in his situation specifically.
Ryan, you've been very forthright in expressing your confidence in Flus. When you look at the quarterback development part of it specifically, what gives you the most confidence in him and the group he's assembled to oversee the development of a young quarterback?
Yeah, I would say first, I don't think everyone really gets a good view of it. Flus does an amazing job building relationships, and I think whoever that is, like, there's going to be a relationship where you know your head coach has your back, and I think that's important. The other piece is just very forward thinking. We both are in terms of creating structure to make sure with a young quarterback, especially in our market, that we do set him up for success. I know for sure that the roster is going to do that. It's important to me to make sure that there's enough around where he can get off to a fast start and build confidence. But at the same time, Shane, Flus, Carey, like they have a good plan too. We have Thomas Brown, who's in Carolina, so he's had some exposure to, you know, a high pick, you know, early. So I think really collectively the whole group's going to do a really good job of
What
that.
resonated to you about Shane when you guys were obviously making your decision on OC? What made him stand out?
Love his background. You know, his time with Pete, his time with Sean McVay, time with Bill Belichick. I know for myself, when you get exposed to many different ways of doing things, you can kind of take the pros of those things and kind of make it your own and kind of ditch the cons or the things that don't work really well in those systems. So a ton of knowledge. I think the biggest thing, and we sit down with these young guys, his ability to communicate and teach is outstanding. It's special to be a part of and watch. So really like Shane, and I think we're in good hands there.
You mentioned that.
I'm sure you'd like to have more than 4 picks. But if you end up staying there, when you compare that to the percentage of holes that fill in your roster, you have to stay with 4. Are you comfortable that you can fill the remaining holes in your roster between that and the next wave of 3?
I do. We've looked at that. You know, if we don't move at all, I think that's 25 picks in 3 years, which is over, you know, 8 and some change. So I like where we're at there, on top of, you know, being set up next year to have a pretty good setup as well. And I think it matches the draft. I think a lot of guys went back to school this year. I think you're going to see a significant drop-off. You know, hopefully some guys squeak through, but it actually, the way we're set up in the draft this year actually pairs up really well with how I think it's going to play out.